On February 24th, we're finally going to be seeing the release of Octopath Traveler 2, released on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, and Steam. And I'm here today as somebody who's lucky enough to have played the game. Big thank you goes out to Square Enix for allowing me to play the game early to bring you guys this preview and first impressions of the game, as I've played through the first chapter of each of the characters that are present in Octopath Traveler 2, so I can tell you guys what there is to be excited about when it comes to this game. So if that's all stuff that you're interested in, then stay tuned and keep on watching. So for those of you who haven't played any Octopath Traveler game before, Octopath Traveler is a classic JRPG in an HD 2D visual style that follows different stories for 8 different main characters, and follows their stories more individually rather than having an overarching story arc. And honestly, one of the things that draws a lot of people into Octopath Traveler as a whole is that HD 2D style, which I adore. It is stunning, it is gorgeous, and somehow with Octopath Traveler 2, it looks even better than it did in the first game, having like more camera work in the battles, having a bit more vibrancy to the colours. I can't even put my finger on what it is. It just somehow looks even more stunning than the first game did, which is impressive. I will also point out, for those of you who have not played the first Octopath Traveler, you don't have to have played the first Octopath Traveler to enjoy the second. The characters are all completely new, their stories are completely new, there are a lot of references to the first game, so players of the first game will enjoy a bit more depth than players who hadn't, but there's not any reason why you couldn't get into it brand new with Octopath Traveler 2 and then go back and play the first one. Now, as someone who has played the first one, I was very, very excited to play the second anyway, because honestly, I figured that a sequel to Octopath Traveler would be that which I wanted it to be, which was just more Octopath Traveler. And that's definitely the case with Octopath 2. Basically, if you loved the stuff that was present in the first game, such as the characters, the stories, just the combat system, there's a lot to love in Octopath 1, and it is just amped up for Octopath Traveler 2. There are like lots of changes to the game that I've noticed sort of in the early parts of it. Obviously, please do expect a full review sort of nearer to release date as well. But like from the time that I've spent with it so far, I've noticed some slight changes that I think work to its benefit, and I haven't really noticed anything that's straight up worse than the first game, so that's always a plus. One thing I've seen is the fact that you can change the time of day from day to night and back again just by pressing R2 on a PlayStation controller. I've been playing this on PlayStation, and it actually changes quite a lot of the dynamics. So it changes like what enemies will spawn, how you interact with townspeople, what skills you have available sometimes. There's like little bits and pieces that make this sort of day and night, it's almost just like a modal change, and it works really just fluidly and very well. And then speaking of like the interacting with townspeople, path actions are something that you may remember from the first game, where each character has an individual action that they can take that's interacting with the world, so such as, you know, mugging characters, or, you know, just selling them something if you're playing as the merchant, or anything like that. And that returns, but instead of there being just one action per character, you now have 2 different ones, one that's for the daytime and one that's for the nighttime. So it gives a lot more depth and exploration to the things that you can do in the overworld just by interacting with characters. While we're here, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and Patreon. I stream 5 days a week, and I will absolutely be streaming Octopath Traveler 2, as well as the new Theatrhythm that's coming. I'm very excited for that as well. There's a lot of games coming out. There's no shortage of new games coming on the horizon that we're going to be bringing you content for here in the channel. And definitely come and follow me over on Twitch if you want to come and chat to me about Octopath or any of the other games that we cover on this channel as well. And I also need to give a quick shout out to one of my patrons over on Patreon, as I do so every video, so that I can give thanks to each person individually. And today that person is going to be Red Cloud, who's been a follower of mine for a very long time now, and they have Camlanaut from Final Fantasy XI as their title card. So a massive thanks goes out to you. And if you're interested in getting a title card and all sorts of other benefits, perhaps consider clicking on the link for Patreon and supporting the channel in the link in the description box below. Oh, that's a lot of words. One of the criticisms that the first game had was the fact that there was no kind of overarching plot until you finished the game, like right at the end, and it was very much kind of like a final hurrah to the game. And this game, like, definitely has still got that sense of sort of separation between the characters. However, they have now added shared stories going in between each interaction, like between two particular characters, which does give a bit more sort of semblance to the idea that they're part of something bigger than just their own story. So if that's something that you didn't enjoy about the first game, it's something that's been addressed in Octopath Traveler 2. Now, obviously, I haven't progressed far enough into the game just yet to be able to sort of explore too much of that, so I don't know how it all ends up, but it's something that I'm very hopeful about while as I continue to play the game. The stories themselves are also very good. The jobs for each character is the same, so you still have your thief, your dancer, your scholar, cleric, apothecary, etc. But the characters themselves are quite wildly different from their contemporaries. So, for example, you have the Agnia, the dancer, who, personality-wise, and her story is completely different to that of Primrose from the first game. And I've explored little bits of, obviously, all of the characters, and the characters that stood out to me the most were Hikari the warrior, which I really enjoyed his story as something that's very, very different to Olberic from the first one, and the references are all different. All of the world building is done really, really well in this brand new world of Celestia, and you know, it references sort of like Far Eastern culture, Wild West culture. There's a lot of kind of diversity in the locales that you'll explore, and I've only just started the game, so that's something that's very exciting. I was also very keen on Throne the Thief as a character that I thought was just really cool. But in terms of the actual story that they had, I was very attached to Casti, which is the apothecary, having a very interesting story arc that obviously I'm not going to go into and spoil this early on, but I definitely very keen to see where her story ends up as well. Combat also returns in a big way with Octopath Traveler 2, and you know, if you've played the first one, you'll know how a lot of the combat works, where you've got just a traditional JRPG style with the ability to use varying different weapons on each character depending on what job they have, and being able to attack enemy weaknesses in order to break their shields to open them up to being damaged more heavily. And, you know, you still have your boost mechanics where every turn that you take that you don't boost, you get an extra BP. And then you can sort of spend your BP all at once in order to just kind of burst through like a bunch of damage, but then the following turn you don't gain any BP. So it's quite a cool dynamic in terms of sort of how the flow of combat works. But a lot of the stuff here is, like I said, a improvement on, but largely the same as that from Octopath Traveler 1. However, latent powers is something that's been added in, which is something that I'm very excited about, because as somebody who likes big flashy attacks, latent powers kind of solves that by bringing that into Octopath Traveler 2. It's something that as you take damage, deal damage, you have a gauge that fills up, and then as the gauge gets full, you then unleash big flashy attacks, which honestly is something that I love in any JRPG. You put something shiny and flashy in front of me and I'll probably love it. But the combat still flows beautifully. The music for the game is still amazing. The music for the game is still amazing. It's so good. It's so good. Octopath Traveler 1's music is iconic. So is this one. It's so good. Now, obviously, I haven't spent a huge amount of time with the game yet, and all I can preview for you guys is the first chapter from each character. So I haven't dived into the same amount of depth that I would have done with the first game, like exploring extra jobs and things like that, or like how far the stories will go. If you've played the mobile game as well, like Octopath Traveler Champions of the Continent, you'll know that the stories, and obviously the first game as well, they're not afraid to go to some places. So I am very excited to see where the stories turn out from here. But I also, as somebody who loves kind of pure JRPG experiences, I love my super bosses, I love my side content, I like legendary or ultimate weapons or anything like that. So I'm going to be really excited to kind of dive further into Octopath Traveler and see where we go from there. But for basically all I need to really say on the matter is, if you liked Octopath Traveler, then you're gonna love Octopath Traveler 2. There's no two ways about that. It is more of what you love, and it includes little bits and pieces that address some of the criticisms from the first game, such as the fact that the characters don't feel like they have a lot of camaraderie. They do now, and that's a really, really positive step. But if Octopath Traveler wasn't for you, then chances are the second one won't be either, because it is a lot more of kind of what you come to expect. But if you've not played either of them, and you really enjoy kind of classic JRPGs, and you haven't been sucked in by the beautiful HD 2D style, maybe worth giving this one a go. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. And as I said before, do expect a full review of Octopath Traveler 2 closer to the release date of the game. Massive thank you goes out to Square Enix once again for allowing me to bring this preview to you all. It's wonderful to still be able to do things for you guys. And yeah, just that's going to be it from me. I'm going to go off and play some more Octopath Traveler 2. I don't know about you. But thank you ever so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notification of any future videos I might be making. And I will see you next time, beautiful. Have a great day.